All right. Welcome everybody to today's college conversation. For our little housekeeping before we start off, this is being recorded. So just for everybody's awareness, we will shut the recording off before Q&A at the end. And also, this is a webinar series that exploring a broad range of higher education opportunities available in New Hampshire. Granite Edvance does not endorse or recommend any particular educational institution or pathway. This is a conversation to help bring information to you from the people who know the institutions best. With that said, welcome to College Conversations. It's a webinar series designed to help New Hampshire students and families get to know the colleges and universities right there in our own backyard. Each institution has something a little bit different to offer, has its own strengths, have its own programs that they specialize in, and we want to bring that information from these conversations to you to help guide you in your college and career planning. So my name is Matt Wallace. I'm the Vice President of Education and Career Pathways here at Granite Edvance, and today I'm talking with Carolyn Doherty from Nashua Community College in Nashua, New Hampshire. Carolyn, thanks so much for being here. We've promised to keep these relatively short, so let's just jump right in. I'd love for you to give a little introduction of yourself.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Uh, Hi, everybody. Once again, my name is Carolyn Doherty. I work as an enrollment specialist in the Nashua Community College admissions office. I am also an alumni of Nashua Community College. I graduated in 2020 with my associate's degree in business administration marketing. So very, very excited to talk with you all today. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So when we do these conversations, I like to really keep a high level in the first conversation. For somebody who's never interacted with NCC before, give us a high level, like what makes NCC stand out in New Hampshire, and what kind of student flourishes when they're enrolled at your college?
What makes NCC stand out? I think that one of the things that makes Nashua Community College stand out is that we have a lot of unique offerings. We are one of the only places in the state that students can pursue an education in the world of aviation. We have a wonderful aviation technology program, as well as aviation management for those that might want to work in that industry, but not working as a mechanic on a plane. That's the aviation management program. And we have air traffic control if anybody wants to jump in and become the tower. We have a training program for that. We also have collision repair technology. That's in our world of automotive, where students get to work on cars that have been in accidents and make them look even better than they did before they got into a car accident. So a lot of cool tech programs, but our foundations are in engineering. The college started in 1970 as an engineering school. So great foundations, mechanical engineering, computer engineering, and electronic engineering are some offerings. But now some of our largest programs are in the health sciences, health science, nursing. We also have programs like medical assisting. So a lot to offer in a wide range. So I think that's kind of what makes NCC stand out from the crowd.
That's awesome. And the I'm drawing a blank. I'm trying to think of the air traffic controlling thing as well as coming.
Yeah.
That's a newer program for you all, right?
It is. It is. It started just last year, but we have had the technology FAA certified. So all of the equipment that the students are learning on, they're in air traffic simulators, and it's simulating what real life work would be living in the tower. And I actually got to try it the other day, which was terrifying, even though it's
How'd
just
that
a
go?
simulation. I landed a plane kind of in the rain, which was
Nice.
interesting. But the codes that they use and being able to be cool under pressure, our students are already much better than me, even though it's a newer
Nice.
program. They were really showing me the ropes for sure.
That's awesome. That's a cool experience. You got to share that. I know it's a really high need in New Hampshire and the greater region. So really glad that you can bring that all to the state. So you are a community college, so it means you're open access, but can you talk us through what that admissions process looks like? And if there's any programs, maybe in the medical field, that have any additional steps to being admitted and becoming an NCC student?
Sure. So I think what we typically use for a term is like a kind of like a rolling admissions program. Some programs are considered what's called an automatic acceptance. So as long as the student has graduated from high school or they have their equivalency, like a GED, a high set, as long as they're meeting that high school graduation requirement, students are pretty much eligible to enter almost all of our programs. There are a few, like you mentioned, that might have additional requirements. Some of those being the ones in the medical industry. Going in for nursing, we have additional requirements. And most common is just the college level anatomy and physiology and introduction to psychology classes. We like to see students doing those first before they're entering in the program. So that's part of their requirements for acceptance. They have to complete those classes
Mhm.
or show that they've completed them elsewhere or have the equivalency one way or another. Do you already have that education experience? Um, and yeah, that's a good example of a program that has some additional requirements that are extra beyond just filling out the application. Another good example of that is early childhood education. We have students complete a background check, which is something that they'll need to do in the industry in order to get a job in childcare. So why not just have that as a requirement up front
Right.
and setting people up for a realistic expectation? You know, if you're coming into this program, can you get a job in this industry? Another
Right.
area we have is a Honda program. So we've got a lot of great automotive programs, but we have a Honda Acura program, which I love, especially I have an Acura. So it's
Nice.
really cool to see those cars coming in and the students getting
Mhm.
to work on them.
Do they
But
get to work on your car if you're having car problems? Can you bring it
they
to
do.
them? That's
Anybody can bring
awesome.
them in. Anybody can bring
Yeah, I
them in.
wish you
It's a
had a
live
I wish
shop.
you had a Volkswagen program I could spin down and get my car taken
Hey,
care of.
they have to learn how to work on every make and model,
All
so
right.
that way they have a nice, well-rounded experience. But some students are particularly getting an extra certification there. Same with
Oh,
our
okay.
Mazda
That's awesome.
program. Um, but so in that Honda Acura, we need to see their driving record. And same thing, in order to work at a Honda Acura dealership, certified service center, they're going to need to see your driving record. So we look at that as an application requirement up front. Can you get a job? You know, I'm not going to make you come to school for 2 years if you can't actually get a
Yeah.
job in it. But they're not looking for that crazy of driving record. I find a lot of students that are automotive interested might be a little faster behind the wheel even, or, you know,
That's
maybe you blew
fair.
a stop sign or something in your youth. You're like, is that going to stop me from coming in? No, they're really looking for more serious charges
Yeah.
that might be on somebody's record that would prevent them from moving the car, or yeah, that's really what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that kind of approach to getting out in front of it. So not saying, hey, we're gonna let you come in and do 2 years of education, invest some money, and then not be able to actually use that degree. Kind of getting in front of that. I think it's really smart approach. What does the application process look like at NCC?
The application is free. It takes about 10 minutes to fill it out. It's right on our website. If
Mhm.
people go online, it's right on our website under apply. And usually people are creating an account in a portal. It's something that all of the community colleges in New Hampshire use. So if someone is out there and considering maybe multiple of the wonderful CCSNH community colleges in New Hampshire, it's the same portal, so they would log in and then fill out an application. Takes about 10 minutes to do so, and we don't have an application fee. Um, if there's any additional requirements based on the program that the person is interested in, once they fill out that application with kind of the basic background knowledge of the student, then it will prompt and say, hey, you know, we are also looking for a background check.
Mhm.
Something else we look for is placement into a math or English class. So we'll have students fill out a self-guided placement, and it's going to ask them, how comfortable do you feel approaching this math problem, approaching this English problem? And once that is filled out, it's going to allow our advisors to have an even more personal and catered to experience for the students signing up for classes. Yeah, math and English, a lot of it's related to what they're doing in their program specifically, but filling that
Mhm.
out beforehand as part of our application process for everyone really helps us to get to know the student and how we can support them best.
That's awesome. And is there a fee associated with applying?
Not at all. No,
No.
no
Free
application fee at
application.
all. Yeah, free application. The only circumstance that I think that there is some type of transactional related to an application, I know that when nursing students are offered acceptance, at some point within that acceptance window, they need to put down a deposit, but it goes
Mhm.
towards their program.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that there's I mean, sometimes when people, if they're transferring to us, a lot of our students might be transferring, having had some college experience already and
Mhm.
looking to complete a degree with us. sometimes when they're requesting those transcripts, they have to pay a fee at that college to have them sent to us.
Yeah.
I always recommend if students are, you're paying for that transcript to be sent to us, have it sent as an official transcript to us directly. Sometimes the students have the option to have it sent to them. If it's then forwarded to us, it's not considered official. And that's the same for any college.
Mhm.
It can still be looked at, but if we're going to give you credit for those classes, make sure it's an
Right.
official transcript sent directly to us from the school.
Awesome. And I think that's a good segue into the whole affordability conversation. So at NCC, and feel free to draw parallels to the rest of the community college system if it makes sense to. What does the financial aid process look like, scholarships, and the overall affordability that a community college might provide?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. That's a really good question and a very valuable one. I'm always very impressed when a student asks me a question like that, and I know we'll have a Q&A later, but sometimes people don't think with a financial foot forward, and I think that's an important way to look at anything. When you're looking at
Mhm.
buying a car or buying a house, you're making an investment in yourself. So looking at
Yeah.
college, how much is that going to cost? And it's a very valuable question to look at. So all of our programs are federally financial aid eligible for the associate's degrees. Almost all of the certificate programs, we have some career training that's offered as well. But most of the degrees, especially, they're all going to be eligible for federal financial aid, which is where a great organization like the Granite Edvance comes in. That can be a daunting process, especially for people who have never gone to college before. Maybe they're a first generation college student.
Mhm.
Um, the FAFSA has definitely improved over time, and I'm sure that you can
Yeah,
say the same thing, Matt. It used to be
definitely.
well over like 100 questions,
Yeah.
and it's drawing your tax information. You're having to put that information in. Now it's, I think, around 30 or so, and a lot
Hmm.
of that information is automatically updated and uploaded for you. So it's gotten better and better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's gotten, easier. Everybody's circumstances are different. So when it's asking questions, I know you guys are great at fielding assistance with filling it out. We have a financial aid office here as well, and we actually have someone from your organization who staffs some office hours, just because we really appreciate your support. It's an area that, it's going to be something that lets the student know if they qualify for any federal grants, state grants to help with paying for school. Our taxes pay for those, so the student does not have to pay those back at all. Same, there are scholarships. Some require the FAFSA to be filled out. Others might just be a private scholarship. Maybe it's from an organization that the student volunteers with. Maybe it's from some academic success in high school. Sometimes students will get scholarships for their involvement in sports. So those are all great, and a lot of them will require the FAFSA to be filled out to see if they're eligible. So yeah, filling out the FAFSA, super helpful for anybody. One of the great things that we offer as well are payment plans. So regardless of what the FAFSA might say as the student is eligible for, our students can pay for the classes in pieces if they want to sign up for a
Hmm.
payment plan. And then when they're done their class, they're all paid for. So it's a nice way to break it up. Any of the community colleges in New Hampshire, it's the lowest tuition in the region. It's going to be something around, depending on the program you're looking at, around $16,000 total. So that's the full 2 years, that's the full every semester that the student goes through. That's encompassing a lot of fees as well. It might not include books or tools, depending on if they need
Hmm.
extra materials like that. But $16,000 is looking at like when you're going to a 4 year school, that's one semester. And then they're there for 2 semesters for 4 years. So it definitely saves a huge savings. And then the first 2 years are accomplished as well, which is really nice and transfers very easily into a 4 year school. So they're able to continue that. Um, and yeah, the transfer process is pretty seamless. And then the student can, and I know I could go on and on about this all day.
Keep going.
The student can be treated with a priority sometimes coming in as an
Hmm.
upperclassman. Now, sometimes they have upperclassmen dorms that they have access to. Maybe they
Hmm.
have priority selection on classes because they're upperclassmen. Sometimes you have to dorm your freshman year. You've accomplished that requirement's already crossed off for you because you're not a
Right.
freshman anymore. You're coming in as like a junior, sometimes even a senior. Students will spend
Hmm.
an extra semester with us, maybe an additional year. Sometimes people call that like a 3+1. And then they have 1 year and they have their bachelor's degree. So there's a lot of great opportunities, and the financial one is huge that not everybody considers as one of the as one of the things that they should be really looking at when they're looking at different schools.
Yeah, I'll say before I was at Granite Edvance, I was at Plymouth State for 8 years, and the
Mm,
transfer pipeline in the even my time there for 8 years, like the regionally at the local colleges, it feels like there's been a lot more attention paid to giving credit to for the credits that you have taken and not trying
mm,
to minimize that credit loss and make that a lot smoother. And we saw when I was at Plymouth, people starting at the community college for that cost savings, right? Because to your point, that $16,000 for a program, that's before aid, right? So that's before anything you get from
correct.
the FAFSA.
That would just be out of pocket
Right.
total.
So if you're Pell eligible, for instance, for that drives that cost way down. If you get any outside scholarships, any scholarships from like the Community College Foundation or the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation or scholarship from us at Granite Edvance, that 16,000 over 2 years keeps whittling down to make it a really nice affordable option.
Yeah, it's honestly, after aid, sometimes people will still choose to do a payment plan. Maybe they have half their semester paid for,
Mhm.
but they don't necessarily want to give out all that second half. People can do payment plans even at that stage and paying off whatever comes after aid if it's not covering the full total, which a lot of students, it ends up, especially like you mentioned, the Pell Grant, Pell eligibility is huge. A lot of students might not have to pay anything out of pocket depending
Mhm.
on what they're eligible for.
That's so great to hear. So let's kind of keep going down that like admissions funnel, right? We talked about the
Mm.
application, we talked about funding, the financing makes sense. So students enrolled. What kind of support is there for a student at a community college, NCC specifically, to stay on track academically and entering their career once they get through their certificate or their 2 year program?
That is an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. The support network at NCC is really tremendous. I know community is in our name, but it's really a whole community that is with you while you're going through school.
Mhm.
Starting off with, they meet with their advisor when they're picking out their class schedule. This is someone who is assigned and dedicated to that whole area of studies. So not only are they advising you, maybe as a psychology major, or an English major or history, like that's their whole area is advising students in that. So they're going to know the schedule like the back of their hand, and they're going to talk to you about your goals. What are your goals? What are you hoping to accomplish? Are there other areas that you're interested in studying? Can we give you a little bit of exposure to a variety of subjects? A lot of students, if they're unsure, we recommend taking things that you need for every degree, like an English class or a math class is going to be needed for anything with a degree title. So taking something like that. But I find a lot of students that are multi-interested, especially like this generation that's coming up, these that are going from junior year into senior year that'll be graduating. A lot of them are interested and good in a lot of subject areas, which is a great trait to have. So maybe giving them the opportunity to explore that, or if they're set, also a lot of them are very set and determined and like, this is what I want to do. And really giving them the freedom to explore that in college is really, really cool. Because in high school, you got to learn every subject. So this is an
Mhm.
opportunity to be a specialist and really go for something that's unique. And a lot of students run with it. So advising is excellent. The additional environment being as a part of a community college, you have access to our full facilities. Even if you're somebody that's in all online classes, you can come to our gym, you can work out, you can have, access to our fitness center. There's intramural sports, which are a lot of fun and a great way to stay in shape while you're in school, make friends, meet people. There's usually 10 to 15 clubs any given semester, and that's totally student driven. So if there's something that the person has done as a hobby, I guarantee you there's something that aligns with one of our clubs here. Or all you need is you and four other people. If you can find five people with a common interest, you get a club, and that comes with a club budget for field trips and activities. So I think that that's a really, really great support aspect. There are studies that show that if you're involved in extracurricular activities, even if that's being a part of the knitting club that meets in the library on Thursdays or playing pickup basketball, the studies show that that involvement, you're more successful in your academics, you're more successful in your classes when you have that outside of the classroom involvement on campus. So I always encourage students to be involved with that. Apart from that, there's 24-hour tutoring services online, great library, mental health services that are available on campus. So we really try and support the student holistically. We even have a food pantry that is no questions asked, take what you need what you take. If you're here and you're hungry, you're going to be a better student, not thinking about your stomach. So that's something that there's free access to all students for services like that that's on campus.
That's awesome. I wasn't aware that the fully online students had the same access levels to the campus. I think that's really awesome, right? Like, go save on a gym membership and use the gym that comes with your degree, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I know it's not possible for every student because they may not be, 15 minutes down the road, but it's really awesome to hear that that kind of community and the campus culture can be extended to those online students if it's something that fits well for them.
Absolutely. I always say about the library, if I'm joining a
Hmm.
class online or I want to have a quiet space, I love the fact that the students can use that. Even the dual enrolled students, if
Hmm.
you are a dual enrolled, you're in high school, but you're taking classes through any of the community colleges in New Hampshire, you should have a right to the access of the campus that you're doing those classes through. That includes printing. Our students can print for free. They get $25 of free printing, and it's like 10 cents a page. And I'll tell the high schoolers, like, hey, you got, something that if it's going to help you succeed in life, maybe it's for your
Right.
high school project or, a student that's out of high school, you want to print your job resume, come to campus, print it, have our
Right.
library take a look at it, or have one of your faculty advisors. That's another area of support. The students get a faculty member assigned to them as an advisor, and that's usually the head
Nice.
professor of their program. So somebody who can make them a great letter of recommendation, somebody
Hmm.
who they'll have at some point. I was a marketing major. At some point, you're going to have those head professors, if not from multiple classes.
Hmm.
And it's a great connection that you have. And someone that, if you have an elective in your major, they've had you in class. They can say, oh, you loved it when we had this section of that marketing class. You should take this one. Or, hey, you really liked the part that we touched on finance. We have a whole finance degree. You want to take a class
Right.
in that area and see how you like it. It's really nice to have the faculty as well as the academic advisor supporting you when it comes to building a class schedule and looking at your goals long term.
So it sounds like at NCC that students are in small enough class size where they get to really have that relationship with the faculty members that will help them not only be successful in school, but in introductions into the professional industry they're going into and throughout their um, next phases of their life.
Yes, the support is great. I love the faculty. They've all also part of what we have when we have someone that we hire to be a professor here. They
Mhm.
have to have firsthand experience in the industry in order for us to hire them. And every college, looking at their requirements is different. Sometimes we are looking for somebody with a master's degree, so you're having to have that level of education, but as well as the firsthand experience. Just because you have the degree doesn't mean in our eyes that you're eligible to teach. You have to show us,
Right.
like, were you an engineer or were you involved in that industry? And then when those professors are explaining the information, they're bringing that firsthand experience to the classroom. So that's an opportunity. You kind of learn from their mistakes. You can hear about what's going on. My business law professor was a full-time lawyer. So the first like
Nice.
10 minutes of class every day, as a way for us kind of trickling in and stuff, you'd be like, oh, you won't believe what happened in the courthouse today. And we're all like, tell us what happened in the
Yeah,
courthouse today.
that's
Like, that's
awesome.
so awesome, And it's an opportunity. And it would always segue right into what we'd learn. They have like a seamless way of doing it. Same with my psychology class I took here. First day of class, never met this professor before. First day, he goes, let's all talk about our dreams last night. And I was like, okay, this is
All
this is
right.
like
Yeah.
everybody wants to talk about how what dream you had last night,
Yeah.
So like people are sharing. And then when he went into the lesson talking about how like the sleep cycles that your brain goes through and when you're in the REM, like that's when you're dreaming. So it was such a good way to tie like a memorable conversation
Hmm.
to the actual information that we needed to learn for class. So
That's awesome.
I was always very impressed with like the quality
Yeah.
of the professors that we have.
Nice. That's excellent. I really like that hook to get the everybody talking in the psychology
Yeah.
class. So,
First day is like,
right.
okay, I don't even know half these people's names, but I know the dream they had last night,
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
just so cool. Just a
Yeah.
fun icebreaker.
That's a great one. Um, I think some of the conversations that I've had over the years with admissions professionals, one population that maybe doesn't get touched and addressed directly in some of these conversations is adult learners,
Mm.
right? So an adult learner who is either trying to upskill or coming back to school after a break, how does NCC support that student? And where would they start? Do they start with you and the rest of your colleagues in the admissions office? Is there a different group on campus that's dedicated to the adult learners? Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Thank you for asking about adult learners. I love adult learners because they bring, similar to the professors, they bring a lot to the classroom conversation. And I like to talk even from my own experience as being a student. One of the first classes I took was public speaking, and I was paired partners with somebody who was old enough to be my mom and somebody who was old enough to be my grandmother. And had to do something together that none of us had ever done before, and then present on it to the class. That was going to be the public speaking aspect of it. Was like sharing the floor and the art of doing that in a structured presentation. So I was like, "What have you ladies not done before? Like, how can we even start this project?" And we ended up going to Time to Clay in Nashua and did like paint your own pottery thing. And
Nice.
then when we were presenting to the class, we also got to show the pottery that we made. So it was such a valuable experience to be able to work with adults. And another class I had to take, I had an elective for my science. I got to pick whatever I wanted. I chose to take astronomy. And there was a gentleman, again, older, not old enough to be my father, but an adult in the class. And I was like, dude, what brings you into this astronomy class at Nashua Community
Mhm.
College? And he said, well, you know something, I've been a paramedic. I think it was like 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years, something like that. He said he'd been a paramedic. And there was a change in the certification that he had. Now, when people are going, they needed an additional science class. And he said, so they having me go back to school because I need to meet the same certification as everybody else. I had to take a science. And he's like, oh, been a paramedic for years. I want to take biology,
Right.
those health science classes.
Yeah,
He's already done them. So he said, I wanted to take something different. I took astronomy. So just a cool
that's cool.
environment to be in as an adult. And I think most of the adult students take the most advantage of the flexibility of our classes. We have classes available in the morning into the evening. There are some that are fully online. There are some that are just on the weekends, just on a Saturday or just on a Friday. So I find that a lot of adults take advantage of the flexibility of the class offerings. And then, like you had mentioned, upskilling, or maybe they're transferring to a different industry. A lot of the adult learners I find may already have a degree or they already have some kind of a certification, but they're looking to move into a different position in the same area, or they want to do something totally different. And that's when they'll come and they'll take advantage of the classes that we offer. There is, we have adult specific support on campus. I know you had asked if we have any specific office. The advisors advise everybody within the same program, but there is additional and special support, especially for adults. A lot of them come with the opportunity to get credit for prior learning. So
Mhm.
if somebody has worked, maybe they've never gotten a degree or certification, but they've worked and assisted in accounting for years. If you've been assisting an accountant for 10 years, you do not need to take our accounting 101 class,
Right.
most likely.
Yeah.
So there's an evaluation process called credit for prior learning. That adult might end up taking the final exam of a class and then finding, okay, yeah, you've taken maybe the midterm and the final, and they say, yeah, you would have known everything that we covered in this class. You can
Mhm.
jump right into something more advanced. Or if they have a degree and maybe they've done a general education class, maybe they've done an English or they've done a math already, they can just focus on the classes that are different. That's going to be
Right.
in that new area that they're doing. So, yeah, love adult learners.
Yeah.
And yeah, some of my favorite like classroom conversations were usually with people who are bringing a different life experience, a different background than myself into the classroom.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And I really like the credit for prior learning or experience because it's really a way to respect what people know and not be charging them for classes and credits that they don't need, right? And it brings down that overall cost of attendance in the long run. So, all right, two final questions as we're wrapping up. These ones tend to be a little bit quicker.
Okay, I'll
But
try to be quicker. I know
no,
I'm
no,
like talking
no,
so
no.
much.
Take your time. There's no rush. I'm just
Yeah.
saying in general, these tend to be a little bit shorter. So, what is a misconception about NCC that you'd love to finally set the record straight on? So, you know what? People think this, it ain't right.
This is a greatly phrased question. I want to say the assumption that sometimes people come with is that perhaps a community college is going to be easier or, easy in comparison to maybe going for a four-year school, like a bachelor's program right away. That's definitely a myth that needs to be busted for any community college because most of the time the programs that you're coming for, whether it's with us or with another community college, usually they're accredited, which means that some type of a national organization. I know almost all of our business programs have this national accreditation that they've come in, they've evaluated our program, and we're teaching at or above whatever the requirements are to meet this national recognition. So that is, it's going to be the same education that you're getting at any school that's meeting that accreditation. So it's going to be just as hard. It's going to be, not easier just because it's at a community college. But I do find that a community college often has more accessible resources and a great overall class environment that you might find more successful than going to like a four-year school. Like our lectures, if the most we ever have in a class is like 24 students, and the average class size is about 15 students to one professor. So
Mhm.
we don't have like 300-person lecture halls that you're one of 300. Like your professor should know you by name. You should know your classmates to a certain extent. And I find that to be a huge benefit. But again, like you said, a misconception, a myth that needs to be busted. It's not going to be any easier. It's going to be the
Yeah.
same quality education. And yeah, I find that a lot of students, that's something that might end up surprising them.
And for those students who want to then transfer to a four-year school, you don't want it to be any easier because you want to be getting full credit for it when you transfer, right? And if it
Yeah.
wasn't meeting those same standards, then it wouldn't be transferable. And then final question. If somebody's on the fence, right? They are trying to figure out what their next step is, whether it's an adult learner or a high school student, and they're not sure if NCC is the right school for them. What's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
The one piece of advice that I would give you is always honestly, like pray about it. Put something in your mind and be like, is this something that would be beneficial for me? And explore that, especially if you feel like a tug to explore it. The worst you could do is check something out and maybe it's something that you don't enjoy. And that checking it out can be as simple as a tour. It can be as simple as coming to an open house. Our
Mhm.
professors are very communicative. They'll meet with you. Sometimes they'll even let you experience a class, like come and sit in and see what a class is like. So that cost benefit analysis that you make, like, okay, it's going to take an hour of my time. That's your cost. But the benefit is that you might feel even more sure. You might feel a spark, like this is really something that I feel like I'd be good at and I want to try it. Or it might be something that you're like, oh, yeah, I might check out some other things as well. Like that's your cost benefit analysis. So go
Yeah.
for it. Come. We actually have an open house coming up August 20th of this year. It's from 5 to 7, and that's a great opportunity to check it out. But why wait? Come today. Call us today. We can get you started and take any worries out of your mind. If there's something that you're worried about, talk about it with people. That's like not a bad thing to express and vocalize.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. I think like going and seeing, right? If you're not sure, the best way to kind of put your mind at ease is going and finding out for sure. So I think that's an awesome spot to end on. Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time to give us a real look at NCC today. NCC's website is a great resource. I'm sure that your information is on the website, so they can reach out to you directly and you can be of service to help them explore their admissions process, financial aid, any programs they're interested in. Reminder, this episode will be posted on the Granite Edvance website after we had a bit of time for processing. And we will also send it out to the people who attended and registered. Carolyn, thanks again for your time today. And we're going to now stop the recording to go to Q&A for anybody who has more specific personal questions. So I'm going to stop the recording.